Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing, and Happy New Year. It's 2026, so I hope you all have a great year. I thought I'd make a bracelet tonight, and I'm going to do one without a stone, and I'm going to work with some textures and some twisting, and we'll see how it turns out, but it should be a relatively simple project. We'll find out if it's a pretty one at the end. Before we get started, I wanted to thank some people. I have a couple of new patrons over on my Patreon site, and it's Rick S. and Valerie J. Thank you so much for signing up. I think you'll find that it's a really nice group of people over there with a whole lot of knowledge. And also, I do want you to know that I really appreciate the financial support from all of you. So thanks for making it such a cool community, all of you patrons over there. I really appreciate it. The other group are my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 25,900, I think, is probably about where we're at. And that is amazing, and I do appreciate that immensely. Thanks for all the great comments this year. I've had a lot of nice people tell me some nice things, and a lot of smart people tell me how they do things, and I really appreciate that kind of input. So I've learned so much from you guys. I probably get a better deal out of it than you do. So thank you for that. Thanks for all your merch purchases and the ebooks. And speaking of which, I am happy to report to you that the ebook is pretty much finished. And after I do this video tonight, I will be uploading it to the merch stores. Presupposing nothing goes wrong with uploading and everything like that, it should be available for sale, along with sets where you can get all 3 books at once, or you can get 2 different ones together in different combinations. So either way, you get a slightly better deal if you do that. So check out the merch store and get yourself a nice ebook. So, but thank you, YouTubers. I really do appreciate that. That keeps my channel afloat, and I couldn't do it without your help. So thanks a lot. All right, well, let's get started on this bracelet. So this is one of my design idea sketchbooks that are available in my merch store. This particular one has different flow temperatures of various types of solder that we use during metalsmithing, silversmithing. Some of the other ones have different charts on the back and stuff, conversion charts for inches to millimeters to gauge and stuff like that. It's really kind of a useful thing to have on your notebook. What I really like about them, though, is this dot matrix that they have in the background. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, I think, but it helps me to draw a little bit better drawings, because it helps me to keep things more consistent, and I'm not a terribly good two-dimensional artist, I guess. So this is kind of what I had in mind today. I don't know if this is going to be cool or not. I think I'm going to use some low dome half round number 4, which is 5.8 millimeters, I think, for the main body of the bracelet. And I think I'm going to use some 14 gauge twisted square here. And then I'm going to use 2 pieces of 18 gauge round wire that are twisted together here into kind of a ropey looking thing. And we'll see how that looks. Normally I would probably twist these in a drill, and I have a video about how to do that. It's pretty old, so the quality may be a little compromised, but the information should be good. But I'm going to do these ones by hand, I think, just for fun. And then this is going to be hammered. I want it to have a really deep texture, so I may, we'll see. I'm going to try some different methods to get a nice, really deep texture. I've used dapping punches before. That's kind of time consuming, and it's kind of hard on a curved surface, but it can be done. Because you can sometimes get a lot of force behind a dapping punch to really drive it deep into the metal. So one of the things I don't like about doing textures sometimes is I'll do a texture, and then when I go to polish it, it takes away a lot of the detail of it. So sometimes I have to go back and re-texture it after I've polished, which isn't always as easy as you'd hope, because there's spaces where it's going to be really hard to reach and stuff like that. So it's a constant problem for me. So if you guys have any solutions, I always like to hear what your solutions are. That's one of the things that's a stinker for me sometimes. So, but we'll give it a try tonight, see how this looks. I think it should be a pretty easy project. So let's get started. I have already cut a piece of this low dome half round, and I'm going to round the ends first, and then I think let's start beating the heck out of it. It'll be therapeutic as well as useful. So let me file these flat first. I'm just going to get them relatively flat, and then I'm going to round the corners like this. If you haven't been to my channel before, here's the setup that I use for my torch and my solder and flux and stuff. One of the things a lot of people use when they start doing metalsmithing is they'll use one of those little, I call them creme brulee torches, because that's the kind of torch they always use to carbonize or caramelize. Probably caramelize since it's sugar. Now I'm just kind of curving it over here. When you start to get something that's this spread out like this, silver is one of those metals that loses heat really fast and gains heat really fast. And so in order for it to solder pretty well, you need both pieces to maintain a temperature of, in the case of the solder that I'm using, hard silver sheet solder, which is about 1450 degrees Fahrenheit. I'll put the Celsius degree up there, I don't remember. I think it's 788 maybe, or something like that Celsius. To get that solder to flow, you want both pieces that you're trying to attach together to reach that temperature in order to get a good bond. Because if they don't reach that temperature, they won't have a very good bond, and the solder joint may break on you. So my point being here was that when you have something as spread out as this, in order to keep that entire thing up at that temperature so it doesn't keep slipping back under, you got to get the entire piece hot. So that means heating it continuously along the whole length. And those little torches, they don't always have the oomph to do something that's as spread out like this, because when you're over here, it's bleeding heat off over here pretty quickly. And when you're back over here, it's starting to bleed heat off over here. So it's a constant fight against it trying to cool off on you when you're using those little torches. So it may be a little hard to reach the temperatures you need with that kind. A plumber's propane torch, you could probably do it with something this size. Although again, you need to really control your heat and keep it moving around all the time. That's one of the things a lot of beginners struggle with. You get excited about what's going on, and you start focusing just on the spot where your solder is. And that's the kind of thing that causes the other areas to start losing heat then, because you're not heating them anymore. So they end up either melting that one spot, because just that one spot gets a little bit too hot, or their solder turns black and oxidizes really badly because it's taking too long to get the piece up to temperature, and then they never get it to flow. So that makes it harder to get it to flow if it gets all black like that. So I hope you all had, this is coming out on New Year's morning, so I'm doing this New Year's Eve, so I hope you're having a safe New Year's Eve and having a nice time with some friends that you care about. So let's see, we could do a number of different things. Typically I use the peen on my little chasing hammer here, and we can try a little bit of that and see how that works. Actually, that's not bad, as long as I hit it pretty hard. I think I'll go ahead and just use that, because that's giving it a nice look, I think. Get all that pent up 2025 angst out here and prepare for some new 2026 angst. So you'll notice it used to be pretty malleable, and now it's quite a bit more rigid. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of hit the edge a little bit here. Oh, I'm going to attempt to hit the edge, I should say. Alright, so I think to get this straightened back out, let's anneal it, which is to heat it up to the point where oops, where it gets hot enough to take away that work hardening we just created. That'll just make it easier to work with again. Let that cool for a minute. Usually set this to cool somewhere else for a little bit and then quench it after it's almost cool. So then it should be a little bit more bendable. I'm just going to use a plastic hammer now to tap it back into shape a little bit. I want to know kind of how long each of these pieces needs to be. This particular piece, I think I cut to about 5 3/4 or something like that. Yeah, pretty close to 5 3/4, or about 145 millimeters. So for these ones here, just take a spare piece of wire and kind of bend it along that. Get a pretty close approximation. And give ourselves a little room to work with. So pieces about that long. And that's about 6 3/4 or 170 millimeters. So I cut some 18 gauge round wire and I doubled it on itself. And what we'll do is I'll clamp one side in vice grips and then we'll just twist it by hand. So you can do this with a drill like I said, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to do it by hand today. So what we can do is hook it over something and just twist the vice grips. So let's go to a place where I can do that. I'll just put a screw in my bench block here to hook this over. So now let me make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Start with this. I'm just going to this will give you wrist cramps after a while. Want to keep it taut though, so you get a pretty even twist. When I'm doing it in a drill, I usually do it slowly until it actually breaks off at the tip of the drill. Don't look at my messy floor. I need to sweep. Probably should. There's probably like silver scrap down there that I can salvage while it's so expensive. There we go. That's probably pretty good. I got a little bleed on something here. All right. Hopefully that focuses on that, but that's pretty nice. So I'll just pull the screw out and then we'll take it back over there and use it. Much like the hammering, this twisting that we did work hardened this as well, so it's actually pretty springy. But I'm gonna try and isolate, the length I need here to get kind of that. We'll call it about right there. And we'll kind of shoot for the same sort of thing with the square wire. I don't think we need to twist the square wire quite as thoroughly. But let's see. It's going to have to be a little bit longer than this. Well, actually, maybe. Well, I left quite a bit extra here, didn't I? How much did I leave on? So I left about 1.5 inches, 3.5 centimeters maybe. So I probably could cut it to be a little bit shorter than this, but not too much, because because we're going to reduce a little bit of length by twisting it, but not that much. It's no fun when you have to be stingy with silver. Right. So let's clamp the end of this in the vice grips. I'm going to use my draw tongs over here to hold on to it, and then we'll just do the same thing we did. But I don't want it to be that tight. Like that. Kind of like that. You know what might be easiest? If we solder this onto one end first, maybe both of them on the underside of this one, and then we'll just bend them to shape and cross them how we want, and then solder them to this side. I think, though, I'm not going to solder the middle part, but I might after it's round, because I think if we solder it there, it's going to make these deform weirdly when we go to bend it into a cuff shape. So sometimes you got to think about these things in advance a little bit. So pound this a little bit flat on the end. That looks all right. So let's cut some hard silver sheet solder. So again, when you're doing something this big and spread out, you're going to have to heat all of this, not just the end. It's going to be a little, it's easy to melt these kind of wires, I think. They're a little bit less massive than the big piece in the middle. They may get hot enough just by me doing this, because I'm right between them. So what I'm doing now is pick soldering. I didn't really hit my target. I'm going to heat the whole thing up and then just stick some solder in there, right? Hopefully at about the right moment. Okay, so we'll let that cool, and then I'll rinse it off, and we can shape it. One thing that did was anneal these wires so they're pretty soft again. So we're going to have to do some shaping. That's looking okay. I'm going to mark this because that's pretty close. Right there. I'm going to flatten this end too a little bit. Now I think it's a matter of spending some time getting it lined up the way we want it. Probably should find the exact center point of this thing. That's pretty close. Pretty close to that right there. Okay, so I think I'm going to solder that one, and then we'll be able to get this to look pretty symmetrical. Hopefully. So the trick on this one was not to be melting the end of this here because it's pretty small, and this is still really massive, and you got to get that up to temperature in order for this one to stick to it. So it's kind of, what I'm trying to do now is figure out how the proportions, I want them to be pretty proportional. I don't want a weird wonky bracelet. I want to, at least for this one, sort of symmetrical-ish. Symmetrical-ish. Think about there. Let's try that. I still have a couple of pieces of solder over here, so we should be all right. Looks like we had a good solder there, so let's cool that off. I'm going to go with that. We'll just try it, I guess. Well, let's give it a try. You could use medium or easy solder if you wanted to on this one. That's not good. I got it too hot there. I think we need to reconsider maybe. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay, so I soldered it back together here to another piece that was left over, and then soldered that piece over here. Neither of these have been soldered to the center thing though, and I think I've got them relatively centered. And I put some easy solder on these. I used medium to connect that other thing. So I'm going to try and shoot mostly down here. Alright, I think we got those soldered together. Let's cool it off and see. I didn't show you me trying to make that repair because I wasn't 100% sure I could do it. And I thought I might have to remake that whole wire. But I was able to get the piece soldered on there pretty cleanly. Once we polish it up, I think it'll be pretty invisible. Hopefully. Alright, well I will get that pickled and we'll polish it up and see how it looks. Okay, so I got it polished up, and I think it's pretty, we did a pretty good job of hiding that repair. You know, there was a little piece inserted in here and it doesn't show up too much. And I got my X a little bit off center, but I think I'm just going to live with that. So I'll try and get some pictures from a good angle so it doesn't show up so much. But yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I ended up putting the square wire over the top because it held this one down, which was a little bit harder to control. So, and this you can probably play with the bends a little bit to get it how you like it most. So let me know what you think. I'm always curious about people's opinions. I think this one's okay. It's not a bad one. Somebody will love that probably. It wasn't too hard to make, just a little screw up on my part here and there. So again, Happy New Year. Thanks for watching today. See you in the comment section, hopefully. Okay, well that was the overlap bracelet, or whatever we're going to call it. I don't know yet. It's a pretty simple piece, but I think it turned out pretty cool. I hope you liked it as well and maybe learned something. If you enjoyed that, make sure to hit the like button before you go. And I'd really love it if you'd visit my main channel page. I have lots of content over there, over 670 videos or something like that now. Tons of projects. So watch a few of those, and I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel as well. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and it allows you to know when all of my videos have been released. Incidentally, which is Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays generally. The other thing is, check out the links in the video description down below. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself some nice design idea sketchbooks like the one I showed you at the beginning. Those are super handy for keeping track of your projects. And there's some other merch there too, some t-shirts and mugs and things like that. So check those out. There's a link to my new ebook if you want to get that, or get a combination of that plus some other ones. It's a great way to have a whole bunch of projects right at your fingertips, and a really nice way to support my channel. Finally, there's a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that community. It's a great kind of artistic place. Lots of smart, talented people who are willing to share their ideas, and we show each other what we're working on and stuff like that, get advice, share resources. It's a really nice place, so you might want to check it out and see if you want to be part of that community too. There's multiple tiers of membership, the lowest being just getting rid of the YouTube advertisements, and the other ones above that having some additional perks like exclusive videos. I think there's up to like 80 Patreon exclusives now over there, if I remember right, which you can't see on YouTube. So you get those kinds of things. You get some live streams with me sometimes, and we have a nice time talking. So check that out. I'd love to see you over there as well. Again, Happy New Year's to you. I hope you have a great day and a really good year this year. So take care. Happy silversmithing.